everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your girl, Candy Washington, and I'm going to break down why I think this whole Erika winning her lawsuit is fake news and the conspiracy theory that we need to be talking about. We need to talk about it. But before we dive in, be sure to like this channel, like this video, you guys, and subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss it when we go live. You can also show your thanks and appreciation by sharing this video, and you can also do super thanks that's below, and then check out all of our goodies in the description box. All right, so now that that is out of the way, let's dive into my thoughts on this fake news conspiracy theory situation with Erika Jayne Girardi. Now, when I say fake news, do I think that the judge sided with her in this particular lawsuit? Yes, that's on record. The judge did side with her on this particular lawsuit. What I mean by fake news is the narrative that she's putting out here, like celebrating and see, it's so important that this happened. I won. I told you I'm innocent. That part is the fake news part. Sit down, Ms. Girardi, have several receipts and calm down. This situation with this lawsuit by no means means that you are innocent. What it simply means is that with this particular lawsuit, because you have about 10, 15, 20 different lawsuits going on against you at any given time, what this just means is that this particular judge did not find enough evidence that you knew about what your husband, Tom Girardi, was doing, and that he did not have a fiduciary duty to his co-counsel, which is basically the people that he works with. Because remember, the plaintiffs in this lawsuit were not the victims. The plaintiff in this lawsuit were other lawyers and counselors who worked at Tom Girardi's law firm. And they're basically being like, Tom defrauded the client, and therefore he also defrauded us because he was taking the client's money. He was taking our cut. We had this agreement. We would bring in different cases. He was supposed to give us a percentage back, and he never did. So he basically was frauding us, and he was frauding the clients. And then that, Erika is liable because she knew about the fraud. She knew about the fact that, the money was coming from fraudulent places, X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. So that was basically the essence of the lawsuit. And the judge was like, oh, she doesn't have a fiduciary duty to you guys. Tom doesn't. And a fiduciary duty just means that you are legally bound to act in the best interest of someone, whether it's their financials, whether it's their health and wellness. It's just someone who has the legal duty to act in someone's best interest, which a lawyer would have the fiduciary duty to act in their client's best interest and not scam them out of millions and millions of dollars, right? So that's basically why. And then the judge was like, oh, there's no proof that Erika knew about the arrangement that the plaintiffs had with Girardi, and also no proof that she knew that the funds, allegedly the $25 million that was being funneled to her LLCs and her accounts were from, fraudulent money that he got from the victims. The lawsuit is still going on. There's still more aspects to it, but her being tied into it is what the judge dismissed, okay? Now, let me tell you why this is problematic and has a lot of issues going on. The first one is, of course, the plaintiffs are going to appeal the judge's decision, and they're basically like, well, the judge was harping on, a couple of things that weren't even being disputed, like, the fiduciary duty aspect of it. Like, I don't think any lawyer would claim that Erika had a fiduciary duty to the co-counsels. No, but they're saying that she did profit from what she knew were to be stolen goods, stolen money, fraudulent things, and that is a crime. And so they're hopping on that. So they're definitely going to appeal the judge's decision. And then the rest of the lawsuit is still going on, right? They're still going against Tom Girardi. They're still going against the law firm X, Y, and Z. So Erika is saying the fact that this judge happened to dismiss her from this lawsuit means she's innocent is fake news. That's not the truth. First of all, it's a very different type of lawsuit when it's people's coworkers, essentially, and employees and bosses who are suing. That's essentially what this case was. It was Tom Girardi's, business partners, lawyers, whatever, suing him saying, hey, you breached the contract. You're supposed to give us money. But the whole time you were, stealing from your clients and stealing from us. Like, that's a very different lawsuit from the actual victims and the clients saying, we were the clients, you did have a fiduciary duty, and you did steal from us. That's a different type of lawsuit. So it does not mean that Erika is innocent. She's like, oh, see, it's the first time one of the lawsuit has gone, all the evidence have gone against the judge, and they couldn't find any proof against me. See, it means I'm innocent. No, it means that this particular judge looked at the evidence and that's what his choice was. It doesn't mean that you're innocent. Because there's a couple of things going on here. One, it's what you know to be true. And two, what you can prove to be true. So again, just because you can't prove something doesn't mean that you're innocent. Even in a court of law, there's a difference between not guilty and innocent. Innocent means you actually didn't do anything. Not guilty means there's not enough evidence to prove that you did it. So you could 100% be guilty, but be found not guilty in the court of law, because not guilty simply means there's not enough evidence to convict you. Not guilty does not mean innocent. And you also didn't win anything, Erika, because you weren't the person suing. You were the person getting sued. It just means that you got dismissed. It doesn't mean you won. Like, you're not getting $5 million. It's not like you won $5 million. And this is also one of the smallest lawsuits against her. She's still in that $27.4 billion lawsuit and all the other lawsuits she has. And this is my conspiracy theory. This is where I take issue with. Follow me on this. I'm really concerned if Erika can get a fair trial in California. And what I mean by fair trial is Tom Girardi for decades, 10, 20, 30 decades, has been running this, corruption scheme. He had judges in his pocket. He had politicians in his pocket. He had police force in his pocket. Allegedly, he even had the California State Bar in his pocket. He had all of these executives and all these people in his pocket. My concern is that how do we know who is corrupt and who isn't corrupt? How do we know that certain judges, even in the appeal court, even the people who are ruling over this, have not some way, somehow benefited from Tom Girardi over the last 30 to 40 decades? Remember, he had the power to appoint judges. So if they were appointed, or if they got any kickbacks, or if they had anything to do with any of his corruption, they might be inclined to go lenient on Erika because they don't want their own secrets exposed. Like, we have to really think about this situation in a real way. Tom Girardi, for decades, allegedly had this huge Ponzi scheme going on for millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. There's a $27.4 billion lawsuit against him and Bank of America and Merrill Lynch and the agency and Mauricio and Rick Hilton and all of those people. We're talking billions of dollars here. And he has had so many people in his pocket, other lawyers, executives, judges, the state bar, other politicians. Like, he's had all these people in it. How do we know? Since she's being tried in California, at least this particular one was in California, she might be facing different lawsuits in other states. But how do we know that the judges who are overseeing the lawsuits against her and Tom Girardi in California are not corrupt or have not been corrupted by them in the past? It's like for example, Tom Girardi's mistress is a judge. I think she's taking like a sabbatical or a hiatus until everything blows over. But it was only until, the feds were knocking at her door, and the people that were knocking at her door was just like, hey, we have a paper trail of the money that he gave you. The gifts that he gave you were bought with, fraudulent money, with blood money, with money that should have went to the victims. It was only then that she wanted to cooperate, and she wanted to, give back the gifts and gives back the money. This has been going on for years, but it took the paper trail, and it took the public knowing that she had this blood money and these blood money gifts for her to actually do the right thing and try and give the stuff back. If she actually had any morality, the moment she found out that all of his money, well, honestly, probably all of it at that point, had been ill-gotten and was blood money, that would have been the moral clause. The moment you actually found out, you would have been like, how can I help you? Let me show everything, but she only did it when her reputation was being threatened, and when she was being threatened because the paper trail was there. And she was a judge. So that's my point. How many judges have already been corrupted or paid off or given a bump or whatever from Tom Girardi, and they don't want their stuff coming out? So how do we know that these judges are ruling correctly? How do we know? Because that's one thing that the plaintiff is appealing on. They're like, well, the judge actually focused on one thing that nobody was actually disputing. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, nobody was actually disputing that. And that's what he chose to rule on when there was all this other stuff. And he's like, oh, it's all circumstantial. People have gotten convicted of murder based on circumstantial evidence. So don't sit here and play with my face and say that you can't rule on circumstantial evidence in a fraud case. People literally have gone to prison for life based on circumstantial evidence. So dismissing it based on circumstantial evidence, I got to squint at that. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that this judge is corrupt. Don't come after me for defamation or libel or slander, because I'm not saying that. I am not saying that this judge is corrupt. I'm just opening up the question of, how do we know which judges have been corrupted by Tom Girardi over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years that he's been practicing? This man is already in his 80s. He has been practicing for decades upon decades, and we know how much power he had. How do we know that the judges now overseeing, at least in California, her cases have not been corrupted? How do we know? So it's fake news for Erika to be like, see, this vindicates me, I'm innocent. No, it just means in this particular lawsuit, the judge chose to interpret the evidence in your favor. That does not mean that you are innocent, and it does not mean that you're not going to be held accountable in the other lawsuits. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Erika can get a fair trial? And by fair, I don't mean fair to her. I mean fair in the sense of any judge that has not been corrupted by Tom Girardi over the last 4 decades. Do you think that behind the scenes, there still could be people who are pulling strings in his favor? There still could be people that owe him favors. There still could be people that don't want their corruption and tied to him to be exposed, right? So what do you think? And what do you think of Erika's win, so-called win? And what do you think about just the whole situation in general? Let me know. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. And don't forget to share this, because a kiki is always better with community. And let me know, do you agree with my conspiracy theory or not? And I will see you guys next time. And don't forget to check out the description box. There's tons of fun stuff in there. Okay, you guys? So I'll see you next time. I love you. Take care of yourself and each other. Bye.
Welcome to Sugar Pills, a practical guide to self-care, where your host, writer, actor, and producer Candy Washington helps you live a more joyful life with a cheeky dash of pop culture news. Be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and join the conversation on Instagram @Candy Washington. Let's go!